Simon, momentum's a big thing in rugby league. Do you think we lost our way a bit at the end there?
Look, I think from the beginning of the game, Dewsbury had more enthusiasm than us. Playing like it meant a lot to him, which it should, the position they're in. But it should mean a lot to us as well, based on what we've been dishing up lately. This last 2 weeks reflective of our season. So we put a real solid performance in against Widnes, put some points on board, some good performers, some of them sort of 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 performers, and then this week we're at 2 and 3s. That's kind of our season in a nutshell, isn't it? Disappointing. Not really much more to say. These people understand it. They've come every week and pay their hard-earned, and we're just not doing. What's the word? We're just not doing ourselves justice, and not really giving them a great deal of hope to come back and pay the next week out at the minute. It's hard. We've been in a rough spot, and we've been somewhat negative, but there's not been a lot to shout about. Last week was something to shout about, and we tried to ride that wave into this one, but I think it's probably an argument to say we maybe expected to just turn up today and it'd all just go swimmingly.
Do you think the lads maybe had a bit too much of an eye on next week, perhaps?
Oh, don't give me that, Faz. It's been there for the last 8 weeks, however long. I've heard it every week. Oh, the people looking at them. No, they're not. I hope they're not. They should not be, because the grand scheme, semi-final against Saints, what is it? It's a great occasion, it's a great day for our fans, and it's a good opportunity to go play in front of a load of people, big audience, big stadium, great. But in terms of our season, I don't think it doesn't really mean that much other than the finance that might come off the back of it, which will probably save us for our the poor form we've had in the league. Has it been a distraction? For me, and I'm not even really interested in Saints, to be honest. The bread and butter stuff is the more important. It always will be at Championship. You can't look any further than the next one, and we just don't be good enough.
And it was a really physical contest out there, especially in the first half. What did you make of the on-report incident with Scott Burrell, and how is Scott?
He's went straight to hospital, X-rays and so on his neck. It was one of them things you see in game where the halfback digs into the line, to try and straighten him up, and as he releases the ball, he gets it in the back. I don't know if it was late or not, but that's something most coaches are coaching. Not to go out and hurt him, but you need to put pressure on the ball player, and at least you need to tackle him. So you want to be hitting him as they're releasing the ball. And I think it's probably more along them lines, but it is you're in a vulnerable position. Your back's to where the hit's coming from. Your head's facing the way to where the hit's coming from, and it's sort of them whiplash type injuries. I believe he's okay, so that's probably the only positive I can chuck at you today.
And there was a few moments of good skill. QLT managed to get over for a couple of good scores, and I think Jacob Fairbanks' 60-metre race down the side was probably what his efforts deserved today. I'd have called him a man of the match. What do you make of his performance?
I've told you 60, Bob. Now, listen, I just told him that if Bobby didn't play today, we'd have lost. Based on, obviously, his try, but his effort, he was the only one I'd say who looked a step above Dewsbury. He was decent. You mentioned Q. Listen, Q did the nice stuff nice, but our defence weren't good enough, and he's our defensive quarterback. I'm not really happy why I went on that front. As I said, I can't think of a great deal of positive to shout about. Real disappointing across the board. Jesse had a 10 out of 10 last week. I won't say he was invisible this week, but he was heading down towards the low end of that scale. Just disappointing, but again, it kind of reflects our season, just that roller coaster of hitting the top and hitting the low. So.
And speaking of roller coasters, pretty big game coming up next week. St Helens in the Challenge Cup semi-finals, as you've mentioned. They paid your side the ultimate respect by resting a lot of players ahead of the big game next week. Where do you see the game being won and lost next week?
Won and lost, wow.
Optimistic.
Psychotic. Now, look, I think Saints, for me, are arguably the best team Super League's seen for a long time. What I have watched of them, they don't always play to a particular plan. They are very skillful and fast and speed kills, right? And look, they're putting scores on good top end Super League teams, so it's quite ominous for us. But no, again, it's more about the occasion than it is the scoreline. But I would like to put in a performance, a tough performance, and just do our best, basically. If we can all get above a 5 out of 10, I'd be happy based on the number of people that were below 5 today. So yeah, looking forward to the occasion, I suppose, and it is a nice distraction from what has been, I won't say stressful, a frustrating time for all concerned. The lads as well, their effort's been pretty good. Just again, you can see it, the amount of times we kick a 7 tackle set and knock the ball on needlessly. We come up with a poor decision and so on. The list can be as long as you want. If we do that next week, we might be getting a lot of kick-off practice.
And you're expecting a bit of a ramp up in training. Everyone wants to play. Have you got an idea of your 19-man squad for the trip over to Bolton?
Not really, but look, I think today was an opportunity to play yourself into a shirt. I think we got the opposite. I think a few people probably played themselves out of a shirt.